Hello and welcome, I'm Peasant, and today we've got a principles playthrough with Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares. So that's a zero difficulty base game, it's all base game, no expansion shenanigans in here. And I'm gonna probably go into a bit more, this is gonna be a slightly more front-loaded video than some of the others, because Bringer does have a massive difference to the other spirits in that they cannot directly destroy things. So this to dream 1,000 deaths thing changes absolutely everything. So obviously if you're playing on digital, it's gonna do the rules for you. If you are playing with a physical copy, you need to know this. So your powers never cause damage, nor can they destroy anything other than your own presence. When your powers would destroy or deal enough damage to destroy invaders, generate 0, 2, or 5 fear instead. The power pushes all explorers or towns it would destroy. So no, it doesn't push the cities. That's a rules mistake I've made myself. Note, a single power cannot destroy a given invader more than once. That's not going to come up that often. Powers which cause damage via DaHan are affected just like all others. All effects other than damage destroy work as usual. Feels like this is actually different to my printed copy. Okay, so this is both a massive disadvantage, but it's not purely a disadvantage. That's the key thing here. 5 fear for pretending to destroy a city is a vast amount of fear. We're going to be looking at a single spirit here because it's a lot easier to go through what's going on with a single spirit. But in single spirit, 5 fear is basically, it's a fear card and a little bit more. So don't think of this purely as a negative. The other key thing to bear in mind is that this all other effects that destroy damage or destroy work as usual means that things like fear cards will remove things. Things like DaHan counterattacks will remove things. So you're interested in defend cards to actually clear stuff from the board, which you might want to do. Though typically if you are actually soloing Bringer, which is a really fun matchup by the way, it's often quite a race against the clock, you almost certainly be winning a victory on fear, i.e. running out the invader's fear deck. Okay, so a little bit about this, just this business here. If you can pretend destroy cities, that's incredible. But this push also can save you from an awkward ravage. It's, yeah, not purely a downside. Okay, so we've got a little look at these options here. Actually, maybe we'll do this as we go, but top track is just better, all right? If you click away now to play your game, just remember the bottom track is horrible. Just don't go there. Okay, and we've got night terrors, which is just some incidental fear. So actually can be tricky to get this, so you do have a slight interest in getting beast elements because of your starting cards. Predatory Nightmares has beast. This is probably your weakest start card. And this is a card that forgets itself if you actually use it for this ability, which you're going to want to do. So yeah, you might want to keep a lookout for animal elements, or if I called it beast. Get them mixed up, it's weird, I don't know why. And then we've got this Spirits May Yet Dream, so you can turn any face down fear card face up. And it just turns over and then you resolve it when you would resolve it. But this is interesting, this is any. You could look at one, you don't have to look at the next one that's coming up, sometimes that's relevant. Often when you've got the elements to do this, your turn is kind of set in stone, or not in stone, but it's something similarly rigid. And this moon thing is actually, it looks pretty low key. Target spirit gains an element they have at least one of. This will help you get thresholds, and again, this is going to push you towards moons, because if you can get threshold with some powers, it will make a huge difference. That's enough blather. This isn't an over-explained peasant. It's principles. Principles, peasant. You know what those things are? I don't know. So here we are. We've got our opening explore. So this is the setup explore, happens part setup in the jungles. Okay, we're also on seaboard, by the way, and that can make quite a big difference for this spirit, because you like to be able to cluster a lot of DaHan together for Call on Midnight Streams. So if target land has DaHan, gain a major power. If you forget this power, so this power, this card here, then you gain energy equal to the DaHan that are in this land with you, and you may play the major power immediately, paying its cost. You can use it for fear. I don't think this is ever anywhere near as useful as this. I remember when I first tried playing Bringer, I didn't really grasp that there were a major power spirit. I know that this gains you a major power. I didn't grasp that. The spirit only really started making sense when I started gaining major powers. Okay, let's stop stalling for time. So here's a trick you can do with Bringer. This Predatory Nightmares, it's the card that you almost always want to forget, right? It does 2 damage, push up to 2 DaHan. So remember, it does remind you here, but this 2 damage will not destroy anything, but it will push a town or a couple of explorers by pretend destroying, giving you some fear, a non-insignificant amount of fear. If you do this 2 damage to a town, that's 2 fear, half a fear card in solo. Pretty good, and this is a very easy way of saving yourself from a ravage that you might not want. So, for example, we start with our sacred site here on this board. They're going to build a town in here, and we can just predatory nightmares to destroy that. And that's what you call the standard opening. The other standard thing you want to do, typically you want to do this turn 1. Your energy game can be very tight without help from other spirits. So we'll do this. We'll do this. And remember the principle, if you always want to be placing presents as much as... You know, that's a priority. Always prioritize. Always. Well, not always, but almost always. Okay, so this power here is a 0 range with invaders, right? So we need to be in with invaders. Our current starting presence is not in with invaders. So although this option does give us the option to go in with Dahan, we really want to make sure we're in with invaders. And then the other thing to think about is our... Sorry, I just actually started thinking there. The other thing to think about is our targeting, okay? So we've got this very useful reclaim 1 and place a presence ability. And that, I think typically this is you want to be using this a good deal. The trouble with this is it is a 0 range placement, so you actually want to take your opportunities to place presence in useful places wherever they arise. So you'll notice here that this starting sacred site can target all of these lands here itself and then all these adjacent ones. But if I place the presence in here, for example, I would then be able to target all these, and it will inevitably become a sacred site because I will probably use this quite a lot. So, given that we also want to be in with invaders, we're going to place this in here. And we'll see why. We'll see why. Okay, so turn 1. There's a few ways to play this. The Predatory Nightmares turn 1 is good. There is some variation on offer here. This, of course, is a defend card, so no point using it this turn, really, and it's expensive too. So you've got a couple of options. I quite like to go, depending on what I'm up against, you can use this to gather Dahan somewhere you want. And this fear thing is useful later on. Or go for this and gain a major power, but not necessarily forget it to gain energy. But let's not overcomplicate things. Let's just do what I think is good and try and be principled about it. Okay, so we're going to use this. We're going to use it on the town that gets built here. Because remember, this needs a sacred site for targeting. It would be actually be better if I could do it over here, because this has Dahan, so I could counterattack in here. So if I defend, then the Dahan could actually counter and do damage. Because remember, they still do damage, even if Bringer doesn't. I think it might be more illustrative to go with Call on Midnight Streams. You're getting the Piezo super scoop way of playing this. So yeah, you'll notice that we've got good fear about it. The trouble with this approach, it's fine. It's not an overexplain peasant. Okay. So my intention with this is actually not to play it straight away. Yeah, I might be I might be doing this like playing it a little bit funky. Okay then. So we're looking at a major power. Now, if I chose to forget this, I would gain an energy for this lone Dahan here. This is probably not the standard way to play, but it's fine. So I'd gain an energy from there, and I could immediately play Jungle Hungers. I've lucked out in that I do have a presence in the jungle. And this is actually pretty great. Remember, we're Bringer. It doesn't actually destroy anything, but it does have the potential to gain us oodles of fear. And crucially, it has Moon on it. The Moon is great because it's going to really help us get our innate powers, these Night Terrors, but also it's going to be a little bit easier for us to get the third plant we need. It is going to be difficult, really, for us to get this third plant. Terrifying Nightmares, though, is even better for us, probably. Probably. This push can save us from awkward town, an awkward ravage, and it should be relatively easy for us to get this 4 Moon, because we've got a Moon on our track here. All of our start cards have got Moon. So this is a good one. I can't actually afford to play it this turn, but that's kind of part of the plan with doing this turn 1. I have gone a bit non-standard, sorry about that. These other options, now why don't we like them? Bringer has a very tight energy game, especially in solo. So these are just too expensive. This is the ideal costing. Probably 3 is slightly more ideal than 4. Yeah, not an overexplain. So these are just too expensive, and because these ones that have 4 element requirements are just really hard for Bringer to get without help from other spirits. So yeah, and they're too expensive. So we'll take Terrifying Nightmares. Yeah, why did I go with this awesome opening in this video? I don't know. Do you know why? So we've got a Forget card now. I actually want to grab a second major power with this, with Call on Midnight Streams. Yeah, I've made some chilling errors. Okay, Dread Apparitions is kind of weak. It's kind of weak, you know. Dreams of Dahan is kind of useful if we want to use Call on Midnight Streams, and this Fear ability here should not be underestimated. Okay, so I'm going to forget Dread Apparitions. If I really care about defending a space, I could just use this to kind of push out of it. And I suppose this kind of links back to the principle of don't be too worried about a little bit of blight on your island. I think the phrase a lot of people bandy around is blight's a resource. So you don't have to sweat every last little bit of blight that goes down. You know, unless you enjoy sweating. And if so, fair play to you. Must be quite a good thing to like. Okay, let's so we're going to stick with our plan here. Though, bear in mind, here's another little principle. With your slow powers, it's obviously good to have an idea for what to do with them when you play them. But they are flexible, so don't be too stuck in your ways on that. For example, if this has been a mountain explore, I might not want them to build a city here, because cities, we can't push cities around. For example, this power here it pushes things that aren't cities. And cities are generally hard or impossible to push in base game. So it's possible that if we had a mountain explore, we'd change direction here and maybe just accept that this might be let go. But that's not happened. So I think we'll go with keeping the under a little bit cleaner. So we'll do 2 pretend damage. It is real damage, but it doesn't really... Okay, now we've got to decide where to push. I generally aim to push towards the coast, because if you can reduce the number of explorers, that's a whole lot less hassle. So I think I'm probably just going to push down the coast. And it's a non-optional push, so you do have to push. So I'm not going to push inland, these nice empty lands. If I push here, that's bad, making cities. Here, I'm not convinced that's a good idea. It might be okay, actually. And here's the thing with Spirit Island, especially in base game, you can actually plan a lot, right? Because I could go, all right, if I push into here, say, and then next turn I use Terrifying Nightmares to push from here, I might actually be in a situation where I can't use this innate because I'm not in with any invaders. So that makes me think, well, maybe I could push in here. So it's a funny game in that there's some things that appear, it's not always, the non-obvious move is sometimes a better move. Now, especially, that makes some sense to me because I'm probably going to want to use this next turn to grab a second major with Call on Midnight Streams. Or am I? Or am I? And this little bit of fear here this is not an insignificant amount of fear. I'm going to go with it. I mean, you could... The other thing is, if I stack in here, that's also valuable. Now, yeah, I'm actually going to go with that. I'm going to go with maximizing fear gain. Now, this is probably more of a solo bringer thing than a... And I'm pushing this in here so that I can use it for next turn's Call on Midnight Streams. Because every Dahan in there is going to give me an energy, and our energy game is really tight with this spirit. Okay. So, this time we've got Ravagers. This is a 1 damage Ravage, which in base is no danger. We can just forget about that now. This here is a 3 damage Ravage. So we will lose this presence and a blight will go down. But does it really matter? That's my question to you. So if we look here at our tracks, if we place a presence this turn, we will be up to 3 energy, right? But if we place another presence next turn, we'll be revealing another moon, which means we might get this threshold here. And this extra fear is huge. I kind of don't really like this for just this ability. But for this, now you're talking my language. And if I am going to use this, I'd rather use this next turn to prevent a ravage, or not prevent, well, it would be preventing because I'd be pushing the explorer in the town from here because this already has a blight in, so it will cascade. So it'll basically cost me 2 blight, which I'm thinking of as a resource, instead of just 1. Now, we would also lose a presence, and that is also a resource. This is the joy of playing a good game, is that it's not always a clear-cut best thing to do. So I think I'm going to go with my initial plan then. I'm going to go with Reclaim and add a presence. We're going to get our Call of Midnight Streamers back. And we're going to place in here. So if a blight comes down, we'll still have a presence here. And see, if we next turn we're basically going to have an identical setup to this stuff, except an extra moon. Now, why am I saying I'm going to get Threshold? This is 4 moons. Well, because this 3 we can use to get the 4th moon. So this is a particularly nice card for Bringer in that respect. Okay. Right, so now we go into this bit. Now here's a little tip. Especially on the turn, you're going to forget this, and you shouldn't assume you're not going to forget it, because sometimes if it's a card like Indomitable Claim that praces your presence for you, you might want to just use it turn 1. But in this case, if I do forget this, I might end up playing a card with irrelevant elements. So you want to Night Terrors first. Because you might lose these elements. And same for Spirits May Yet Dream. So we could just see the one that we're definitely going to have this turn. I'm actually going to do that, because if we do play a major, what this is might impact on my decision of where to target the major, for example. So we'll look at it. Invaders do not explore into lands with at least 2 Dahan. Interesting. Okay, we've actually got 3 of those lands. Huh. I was actually about to gather some Dahan into here for 2 energy. But here's another principal thing that it will apply to every playthrough. You have some idea of what these cards are going to be. Each of these stage 1s is one of each terrain type, with 1 removed, so that we know that this is sand or mountain. We also know that this isn't going to get explored again. That's just impossible until we get to stage 2. And that we can use that information to kind of plan accordingly. So we know that next is sand or mountain, so it's actually, this is more like it doesn't help your strategy much, because I wanted to drag these Dahan into here anyway. But it means we can just feel a little bit better about it, because we know that the next explores a sand or mountain, and we know that this fear card is going to prevent an explore next turn. This turn even. So, I'm going to use this. We're going to gather these 2 Dahan in here, and this is just for the energy. Because we're going to be skin. So let's gain a major power. We're not necessarily gonna play this turn. Interesting. Okay, so this for me is the clear standout here. This is actually just one of my favorite majors, but there is actually a proper reason for that, not just personal preference. So it has moons, which is good. It's going to help us with our threshold, but we do happen to have this card that has the moon mountain that we need to get this repeat. Repeating this is very, very strong, and this Predatory Nightmares is pretty much always the card I want to forget. I mean, in this game, because we had Terrifying Nightmares, I actually did forget the starting defend card, which its name evades me. But in this case, we actually definitely want to keep Predatory Nightmares. I mean, though probably we want to forget anyway. And we can actually use it this turn, because there is going to be a build in this land that has Blight. The other thing that's interesting about this is that we could just allow this to Blight so that we could hit it in future with Land Thrashers. I mean, this is generally not a great card this early in the game, right? Because there's no Blight down. But we've got other things we can do. We can be using Terrifying Nightmares to just push everyone around. The other things, let's have a quick look at them. This is a replace effect, so it will still work. this is this is just one of those cards that it feels very niche, you know, niche to have. And Tsunami is a possibility to make vast amounts of fear. The threshold's going to be awkward for us. We don't start with any water cards. Sorry, water elements. Let's try and be. We're making a video aimed at newer players. Let's try and be. Let's try and be less vague. But it has the potential to make a vast amount of fear. And you know what? It might still be the pick here, because although there's not much going on the coast right now, we can push everyone onto the coast. We can use our terrifying nightmares over the course of a few turns and then just repeatedly slap the coast with the Tsunami. And now, but we're unlikely to get that threshold. I mean, this is almost impossible without help from other spirits. Okay, I'm gonna go. This is also too expensive to use very often, and if we had threshold, it'd be way more tempting. Let's go with land thrashes. Okay, now we have to forget something. I'm gonna forget this. Dreams of Dahan, I value. Dahan movement is very useful. This is also very useful. So we're gonna do this. And we can play this turn. It's not ideal, right? It's only gonna do a little bit, but it does help us in this land that could be a problem. So here's the fear card we were expecting. And let's see, do we get... Okay, and we just let this blight. How careless. And now we're going to get our sand on mountain. What do we get? We get sand. Well, okay then. So here we can use land thrashes for 3 damage in here. So we can actually push everyone to the coast if we want. And let's plan to use Terrifying Nightmares next turn in this land and get this full threshold. And maybe we'll use Dreams of the Dahan next turn. This 3 fear is that's a lot of fear. We are a little bit lacking. Remember how I was saying earlier about lacking the animal element? Most of these tiers are are hidden from us. So we could, of course, hit here. These are our 2 options, but this is kind of irrelevant right now. I mean, it might become relevant immediately, but this is definitely relevant. So we are going to do this. It does get us a fear card, and we can push. And we don't have any defend cards, which means that I've got the option here. I think I'm going to generally try and push to the coast. I think that's actually pretty attainable to push to the coast. And I know I am planning to use Terrifying Nightmares, so I could push here as an intermediate step, but that doesn't really make any odds. Because Dreams of Dahan only cares about how many Dahan are in the land, not how many buildings. If I push here, I'm kind of stacking my invaders a little bit high, which is not always what you want, but it can be a pretty good way of making a great amount of fear in one go. Because remember, if you can destroy multiple buildings at once, then there's going to be more fear. And it is a race with Bringer. You can win with lots of Dahan counterattacks, but it's tricky and it's going to be unusual. So we could stack high. Yeah, the odds of us gaining anything to help in here are very low, because I think next turn we probably want to go Nightmares, Dreams. Turn after probably is a Reclaim. So yeah, we do gain a power card on the Reclaim though, actually. Probably too late to gain a card that's going to help in here. So I think the thing is, with our current set of tools, Terrifying Nightmares is our only card we can use to prevent ravages putting blight by just pushing the invaders out. And we can't use that in this land anyway. So I think I'm just going to accept that this land is going to be blighting next turn. Now it's a coastal land, right? And now if you look at the stage 2 cards, there's one of each terrain type and a coastal land. So this sand here is both a sand and a coastal land. It is guaranteed to come up. But this card here does mean that if the bit of blight comes down, well, you know, I'll live. We also have more information when you're playing base game. You know that there are 2 blight cards. If you're playing with a blight card, they're not that bad. I'd add them in if you're on the fence about them. Though obviously a lot of people don't like the base game ones, but there are two of them, and one of them has 4 blight per player and one has 5. So you kind of, some of the ones that you get in expansions will have less blight on, or fewer blight. I don't know. I don't know how to speak England. They have. Yeah, I like the plan that I started with. Okay, let's just think about our tracks. So this time we're going to reveal this moon. Next time we're going to reclaim. We're gonna have a little bit of a pocket of energy. And the nice thing is, okay, so if they place a blight here, we'd be able to pretend destroy a city if we were to use land thrashers. We'd also, if we can get threshold, which we could if we also play this. Now that's 6 energy. It's a lot of energy. That is a lot of energy. So yeah, we definitely want to go budget. And we're going to remake this sacred site. So now we're going to get to do this second tier to make this 3 moons into 4 moons. And the lack of animal element is, you know, it just sometimes life throws you a curveball. So yeah, I think it can be worthwhile to look further ahead. Let's do that. Now we're going to terrify Nightmares 4, which is going to gain us 6 fear. So we know we're going to have this card as well. Let's just keep it simple. Each town destroys an explorer in its land. Now we know that this is going to be pushed to Terra 2. That's like it's something I like to do in general. And we're just getting the 4th moon from this bit here. So now we've got threshold on Terrifying Nightmares. So something I like to do is upgrade. So I tend to try and stack my fear generation to upgrade existing fear cards to the higher level, because they're often quite big upgrades. I mean, this isn't a huge one really, but there are some, especially from 2 to 3. Those are huge. And as bringer, especially in solo, you're going to have to get to Terra 3, or you'll almost certainly lose. Okay, so let's do some Dreams of the Dahan in here. So it's another benefit for having a big stack of Dahan somewhere. Let's gain 3 fear. Okay, so we're now at Terra level 2. And then we will push out. Let's just quickly check there's nothing better to do. We could... So I'm just going to go preventing the city build here. We have options. We could prevent the blight going down in here. And we could even hope to get a defend card if we gained a card. I mean, that feels unnecessarily risky. So we prevent the city build, or we prevent the blight placement. I think I prefer preventing the city build. The thing is, we're almost certainly going to have a blighted island next turn, because this is going to be hard to prevent. But see, if I was to get a card that could mean that blight isn't placed here, it would be probably equally applicable here, and then I'd actually have a Dahan counterattack. But this, I'm going to be risking another presence. Both of the blight cards in base game will eat your presence over time. Now that's actually not that big a deal as long as you're prioritizing placing your presence. Okay, so the other thing to think about here is that if I push this town out of here, I won't get to use my innate because it's a 0 range with invaders. And then another thing to consider is the messy counter. I actually don't really want that. I don't really want a messy counter. And what that is basically where you have Dahan in with the invaders, and the invaders ravage, kill some Dahan, and then the Dahan and place blight, and then the Dahan fight back and do stuff. So in this case, if they build a city, that's 5 damage. They'd kill 2 Dahan, and 2 Dahan would fight back and destroy the city. But it wouldn't clear the land. Not convinced. Oh, we've got invaders in here. I'm going to stick with the initial plan. I think you can make a case for either. And the other thing with fear cards is that the more of them that you stack together, the more likely you are for them to actually protect you or help you. Like, I mean, we've got 3 Terror 2 fear cards. We might get help in this land here. Okay, so we've got the scapegoats we knew about. They're just gonna destroy a few explorers. Next fear card. Each player chooses a different land with Dahan. Invaders take 1 damage per Dahan there. Okay, not applicable. And what have we got next? Each player may push up to 3 explorers or towns from an inland land. Okay, well we've managed to avoid this, so we can prevent this blight being placed. So yeah, and we'll push into here instead of into here because that's preferable. Because it's like the best. I think the best line I've ever come up with on this is in a video aimed at new players, and I'm doing this because that's what I'm doing. No explanation necessary. I mean, you know, I do what I can. Okay, so we are now empty of hand. So here's a good general principle. Don't just assume you reclaim in this situation. Don't, because sometimes, especially if you've got options to reclaim, you can still make a turn work. And in some cases, not this one isn't a particularly good example, but you can really make a difference by pushing the presence. But I think in this case, it's fine. So I think we reclaim here. And then we've got mountain builds in here. I think we are going to reclaim. We've got 7 energy. Dreams that I've realised here that by not having a town here, Dreams of the Dahan's a little bit sad now. It's not going to work in here because it needs buildings to get the fear. So Dreams of the Dahan could be something we forget. So we could look at another major power. Or we could look at another minor power. The trouble with mages, of course, is the cost. But we might find a minor power that means that we can have a cheaper thing that gets us the elements we like for Land Thrashers. As it stands, Land Thrashers with Threshold is actually going to be pretty nice. If we this is probably almost certainly going to blight, which means, and there's 2 adjacent blight, so 4 damage, but it would be better to pretend destroy the city. So that's 5 fear, and then we could hit an adjacent land, this land, and that's 7 fear. That's pretty good. So let's look at a major then. Let's look at one. Is that, I don't know. I mean, I think you could go either way. And the other thing with majors is that you don't have to, just because you actually can forget the major that you've just drawn. Okay, this is a very good one for us. This wrap here. Okay, so nothing has moon, so the elements are a little bit wonky. But wrap is we move some Dahan. We actually have with Bringer, you typically end up with a perfect land for this because you often cluster your Dahan for your card that gains you mages, which I've forgotten the name of that as well. So this is often a really good one. So in this case, unfortunately, this is a 7 damage ravage in here, but we could just bring some. We could just use this anyway and get a pretty brutal counter on that. And clear a lot of the people in there. But I still think it might be better to just let this one go. 5 defend, though, is not enough, actually, for this land. This is going to be building a city as well, so it's not enough defend. But if we can keep the number of the cities on the board, that can be pretty good, because what that would mean is that we could win at terror level 3 for there being no cities on the board, rather than having to go all the way down here. All the way down there. Because, okay, so we could, if we gain wrap, we could send this for over here. They would be 5 defend versus a 7 attack. So a Dahan would still die, but 3 would survive. And they would fight back and they could destroy this city. If we use Terrifying Nightmares here, we won't get Threshold, right? Because we won't be able to get that 4th moon, I think. Yeah, we need to be pretty moon focused to get that. But we can prevent this city build in here. In the act of counterattacking and destroying that city, we will destroy a city of town. So that'd be 3 fear. We'd gain a total of 5 fear. Wait a second. Wait a second. We actually only need 6 fear to get to Terror 3. There's only 1 city on the board. So I'm going to try and win in the Ravage phase. Let's see if my maths are correct. So, because there is you can win in the Ravage, so in theory we wouldn't need to push these. Okay, we'll forget our dreams. So dreams with Wrap are pretty good. But let's just prepare for a world where I've miscalculated. It's happened before. So you actually need the terrifying nightmares for the... Oh, nice. I've just realised that this has the animal element on, so we should get decent night terrors. They're decent. But this is what Bringer's like in solo. It is a bit of a race, and this does look a bit messy. I mean, my playstyle is somewhat messy anyway. Let's look at a fear card. Each player removes an explorer or a town from a land with a presence or a city from a land with a sacred site. Intriguing. So we now just need 2 fear. So yeah, we should win. We should win in the Ravage phase because we will simultaneously... Well, yeah, we will gain the fear from destroying these buildings. Very easy rule to miss when I well, I think it's one that I nearly missed when I first started the game. It doesn't matter where we push these as long as I've done the maths correctly. It just doesn't matter. Okay, and then we can wrap from here into here, and we'll bring everybody. Everybody, come on in. Have ourselves a fear card. Can move it. Okay, well, we've got ourselves an extra little bit of defend. We can keep the island a little tidier. I like to defend. I like to look after my Dahan if I can. So that should. Is it? Okay, so we've revealed Terror 3, and that is the win. Okay, I hope that's helpful. I did end up going with a the non-standard opening. But it meant we got to talk about more major powers. Yeah, this is a super fun spirit to play with. Okay, for any serial killers watching, okay, I scored 30. All right. But yeah, that's Bringer. If you have any questions about Bringer or just Spirit Island, Joe, put them in the comments. I try and answer and read everything. If there's something referring to a particular thing I say or do at a particular moment, please use the timestamp because probably I will have forgotten most of the content of this video in about 10 minutes time when I finish my coffee. So thanks for joining me. If you liked the video, and yeah, subscribe if you want more Spirit Island content. I am hoping to be putting out at least a few videos a week. I don't have my schedule for videos keeps changing around. I don't know why I'm tacking this on the end, so I'm not going to edit it out. All right, bye for now.